Are you looking to level up your author business?
Are you pounding your head against a wall, wondering what your next step should be? Then join me, Daniel Wilcox.
And me, Sacha Black, as we haul ass each week in a bid to level up.
Level up!
Come along for the ride as we delve deep into the business of writing,
Craft,
entrepreneurship,
and every level of the author journey. This is the Next Level Author Podcast. Hello Achievers, and welcome to the Next Level Author Podcast, a podcast where we hold each other to account and track our step-by-step progress as we level up our author business. My name's Daniel Wilcox, and here with me every week is...
Sacha fucking Black.
Sup, SFB? How you doing?
Yeah. Oh, we are back. We're in a routine again. It's so
2 weeks
nice
in a row.
to see you on a Friday.
I know, because we've not seen each other hardly at all this week.
I know. We've literally spent like all day, every day with each other, except like not physically. Yeah. Should we explain what the hell we're talking about?
I think we should, because it's been, well, it has the potential to be very, very helpful to my work.
Yeah. Go. You do it then.
Oh, okay. So we decided to start doing, because we're in a bit of a Facebook group with people. You know who you are. I'm not going to shout you out. But we're in a Facebook group with people where we do some sprints in the morning, a lot of UK authors. And I can't remember what day we decided to do it, but we decided to do a Zoom, just basically me and you jump on Zoom and just sprint and basically be present and visible, so that, you know, one of us can basically shout at the other one if we do start like just visibly checking our phone or drifting off or doing something. And there's something about it that's just been really, really, really helpful, because, you know, we have a bit of a natter in between sessions, and sometimes we natter a bit too long, but we've still been getting stuff done.
Yeah.
I don't know about you.
More so, I think, because it's really fucking obvious if you're on camera and then on your phone.
Yeah.
Also, I'm going to give credit to Caitlin, because Caitlin was the one who introduced me to like Zoom sprints. I'd never done Zoom sprints, and I was like, well, that's going to be awkward. It really wasn't awkward. It was actually fucking awesome. And so, like, long may the Zoom sprint continue.
Yes, and Caitlin did join us on Thursday.
I feel like it was... I don't.
Whatever the day.
Who knows? Whatever.
Yes, we did a few. We did a good session with Caitlin as well. But yeah, I think also because I have a tendency between sprints just to be like, I'm home alone. I'm just going to go make a coffee. I'm just going to, you know, do a bit of laundry or this or that, and just kind of get distracted by stuff. Whereas if you know that someone's there and watching you, you just come back. And you just started the work. So it's something that I think we're going to continue. It's something that I'm potentially looking at running some group sprints, and I've just upgraded to Zoom Pro, so I can have more than 2 people without it counting us out within 40 minutes. So yeah, I'm looking at how that'll work, but just throwing a link out there and basically just having everyone to jump onto Zoom at certain points to come and sprint together, which would be quite fun. So yeah, it's been really good, and obviously that means that we've seen each other for quite a lot of today as well. So
I know, still your face all over again.
It is. I have a hat on now. I didn't earlier.
I know you do, and my hair is slightly more dishevelled. It was slightly less dishevelled earlier, and I'm looking more and more like it's, you know, first thing in the morning.
Exactly,
it's really
what I was
last
thinking.
thing at night.
Give us an update on what you've been doing with your week. What's been going on?
Oh my God, I love my mother this week. She took Atlas from Tuesday to Thursday. So I think she usually comes sort of like midday-ish when she comes to pick him up. So I always get half a day the day she picks him up, and then I get however many days, depending on how long she has him. So this week she had him Wednesday, Thursday, and then she offered to take him at about lunchtime today. So I then got about 3 or 4 hours solid of working. So I have almost had an entire working week. And would you fucking believe I got shitloads done? What a fucking surprise. Yeah. So I, Daniel Wilcox, finished my novella. Yes,
you mean I Sacha Black?
No.
I know what you mean.
Don't confuse me. I am very easily confused this evening. It's definitely Friday.
Yeah.
Yes, I, Sacha Black, finished my novella. So I now have
you did.
2 books that need editing. Not so fun. But yeah. And my novella, which was meant to be a prequel, turned into book 3.5. So that's a bit of a head fuck. But yes, so I've now got to edit 2 books. after I finished my course, which is I made loads of progress on that as well this week, and I have very nearly finished all the slide decks, and I was sat here working on some just before we did this thing that we do. Yeah, this thing. So I'm hoping maybe if I'm lucky by the end of the weekend that the slide decks will be done. If not, it'll be first thing Monday. And so I should be recording next week. So depending on how long all the editing of that nonsense takes, I stand a chance, a slim one, but I do stand a chance of getting this done in time, which is unbelievable.
That's awesome. And you seem a lot more bright and happy and accomplished.
Yeah, well, so this is what I was saying before we came on air, is that when you know your strengths and you have friends who know a lot about Becca Symes, the Clifton Strengths tests, you learn a lot about yourself. And because I have Achiever as like my number 1 maybe, or number 2, I can't remember. No, I think it's my number 2 because competition is my number 1. It means that I derive a lot of pleasure from finishing and things and being able to tick things off. So when I have weeks like the week before when I got fuck all done, I get very grumpy, very miserable. I'm not a very nice human to be around. But when I have weeks like this, when I've got loads of done, I am full of unicorn glitter and sparkles and swear words. So yeah, anyway, enough about me. Tell me about you. How was your week?
Yeah, my week was it was productive. One thing that I think I've learned about myself this week, and it comes back again to Becca Syme, because we both basically were talking about her earlier. We listened to her latest episode on Rachel Heron's How Do You Write podcast, and one thing that came out of that I've only realized kind of applies to me is that I don't really ever have a working day that's the same. I've been trying for ages to give myself like some kind of routine where I'll get up at a particular time every day, and I'll work at this time until this time. I'm just finding that as much as I'm trying to do it, every part of me just repels that. So like, even if it's just like slightly moving times and stuff, I know that I work best doing my writing in the morning, but that doesn't necessarily mean that I do it at the same time every morning. And I'm kind of, at the minute, I don't know what it is, but I'm all over the place in time. I'm getting stuff done, but I don't have a day where I can go, this is the type of day that I have. But anyway, so I've managed to get loads of stuff done. I finished my first draft of When Winter Comes, episode 5, which I'm very, very excited.
Hell yeah, you did.
Yeah, because
look at us smashing books out this week.
Fucking doing it.
Yes, son.
Yes, son.
Get in there, my son.
Oh, it's just flashbacks, just sitting in the living room while my dad's watching an England match on the TV. Come on, my son. And I'm sat there going, I'm not doing anything. Where was I? So yeah, when winter comes, it's done. I had a 4-hour session with a photographer on Tuesday, which was an experience, because she's someone who actually used to work on my team, and she's since gone self-employed and done photography stuff. And she's fantastic, and I'm familiar with her work, and I know she's good. And the reason, or the outcome that I was coming for was kind of twofold. So on one side, we went out into the forest. I had like a proper like grizzly jacket on. It was like in the forest where it's all dense and wild. We had smoke pellets going off, and like
I am so excited for the smoke pellets. I would kill to do a shoot with smoke pellets.
I did burn my thumb on one.
Were they coloured?
No, these were just sort of just grey smoke.
Could she do a shoot with purple smoke?
I mean, probably, yeah. I'll ask her. I'll get her info for you.
Yeah.
She probably
I need to lose weight first, because like these chins don't need to be in photos.
But the interesting thing about them is they burn slowly and then they burn a lot. So like she sets it off behind, starts taking pictures, and you can kind of see her just go, because this was her first time using them as well, just like not quite. And then she comes over to walk, it suddenly all just goes like smoke, and it's like, quick, go. So that was fun. And then the second half, I've got a lot more like sort of friendlier shots for something that's upcoming that I've not yet announced. So yeah, I'm excited to see how they all come out. We've got some really cool experimental shots. I'm really interested to see how they come out. But I should be getting some of those back next week. So yeah, and then the other thing that I've been doing is reading through the 177 submissions for the Other Side anthology, which I was smart enough, thank you, past Dan, to basically start reading them as soon as they started coming through, because I was like, this is my first time doing this. I don't know how many there's going to be. Did not expect there to be 177.
That's fucking insane, you know.
Yeah, I guessed, I don't know, maybe about 30 or 40. Like honestly, like, and they just kept coming in and coming in and coming in. So I am now, bar a couple of stories which a friend is helping me read, in the process of narrowing down to the final 8 or 9. So that will be this coming week for a release ahead of Halloween. So I'm going to move pretty quick on that one.
Yeah, love it.
Yeah, that's all my things. What's one thing that you've enjoyed this week?
Shit.
Cue paralysis.
I know. Oh no, okay, it's fine. Right. So I am reading Rivers of London by Ben Aronovich. I think that's how you say his surname. And it is so un-PC and like so British in its humor. Like it's basic. Have you heard of it?
No.
Okay, so it's crime / urban fantasy / comedy. Okay, so it's set in London and it's about the Metropolitan Police, and but it starts, basically, it's not really a spoiler, it opens with a copper on the beat who basically sees a ghost and interviews the ghost who saw the murder. Okay, and that's how it starts, and it is so fucking funny. I have literally wet myself. Well, not literally wet myself. Well, not quite literally. I mean, it's a possibility. I pushed a baby out, but no, like I didn't actually wet myself. But that was probably too much information. I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry. It's late on Friday. I'm really tired. Anyway, we're all friends here. Yeah, so, and it is so funny because the humour is like, it's quintessentially British humour, and if you don't get British humour, you will not find it funny. But I have, like, you know, when you're like because you're like laughing so hard. You know, I'm delirious this evening. Anyway, so like, yeah, I've been like proper cackling, and I've loved it. It's so good. Yeah, so that is my thing that I've.
There's a book that I cannot remember the title for, that I'm going to have to throw in the show notes or somewhere, which is a comedy horror, which kind of sounds a little bit like what you're describing, but maybe a bit more like horror-y. And I read it last year, and it was one of those where I wasn't expecting it to be so funny, but like just some of the imagery within the first chapter is kind of amazing. I'll have to find out. It's on my shelf. I'll get a picture or like get the link for something, but definitely worth checking out. Have you ever seen Garth Marenghi's Dark Place?
No.
Oh, that's British humor. You have to. It's one of those shows that a lot of people have missed, and it's absolutely hilarious because it basically is a guy telling the story. Like he's a fictional writer who is telling a story of this place that he invented called the Dark Place, which is a hospital where all this horror stuff happens. But it's got like Richard Ayoade in it and Stephen Merchant and all these like big names early on in their career, and it's deliberately shit in such a way that it's freaking masterful. It's fantastic. But yeah, tangent aside, my thing that I've enjoyed this week, I'm gonna say it's something that hasn't come yet, but just the fact that it ties into the other side. So I've basically for the last however many months been putting all of my effort into reading submissions to the point where I haven't read like a novel in a while, and it's killing me because there's something about having read like, and this is no disrespect to the submissions, but obviously there's always going to be a range of things, but like good quality published fiction, you know what I mean? Like a big chunky story. So I've just treated myself by ordering Chuck Palahniuk's The Invention of Sound, which is his new book, as well as his non-fic on writing, Consider This. So they should be coming through tomorrow, and that's something that I'm going to dive into, and hopefully we'll be able to tell you guys a little bit about next week.
Cool.
Excited for that. Confessional. Sacha was meant to do Sirens and do shitloads of the prose course.
Well, I am confident that I did both of those things, given that I finished Sirens and I did do shitloads of the course. So Booyah. Go me!
And mine was down to do a full draft of When Winter Comes 5, finish planning a client project, which I did today, and have some author photographs done, which was, all done and sorted. And actually, I'll say that because that ties a little bit into the question I'm going to ask in a bit. One thing that we need to acknowledge before we go into comments is an update on our wonderful Faye Trask and her accountability. Did you want to give an update on what's happening?
Yeah, so she did not. She came and hosted and didn't do
Bless her for being so honest.
I know. She should have lied. Should have got with your inner villain. And yeah, so she failed to do the thing that she said she was going to do. And in taking on your hosting responsibilities, that is a part of being accountable and being a host. You have to deliver on what you say you're going to do. So what we are going to do
So
is
tempted to reach out to Jay.
I know, right? I know. We're going to be masterfully evil, and Dan is going to come up with 10 questions, and I am going to come up with 10 questions, and we're going to haul Faye back on this podcast, and we're going to rapid fire ask her questions, and she has to answer every single one of them, no matter what we ask.
I am so excited for that.
We need to like deviously plan these questions together so that okay, cool. Because
there's got to be a methodology, because you can weaken the psyche by asking particular questions. Do you know what I mean?
I love it.
Really beat them down.
Oh my god, I love it.
Jesus Christ, monsters!
We're so evil.
Last week we asked you. Oh, before I go into that, actually, just in terms of timeframes, I think we're looking at doing that next week. But it's difficult to get us all timed up. So hopefully next week, but we'll keep you posted on when that's going to happen. Last week.
Definitely my wife, everyone listening.
Hello. Last week we asked you, what is your relationship with failure?
Oh, yes, we did.
Sacha,
that's me.
Over to you.
I was so distracted by my gorgeous wife that I completely lost my plot with this podcast. Right, where am I? Yeah, so what's your relationship with failure? Okay, Jeff Adams said, failure, interesting question. I prefer to think of it as a learning experience rather than a fail. Totally agree. If something doesn't go right, hopefully I can learn from it so I don't repeat the same thing. This is a curious question with many unique answers, as you two pointed out on the show. I look forward to seeing what others have to say. Yep. Victoria L.K. Williams said, my relationship with failure is close. It's like an older cousin egging you on. Don't let a failure get you down. Learn what you did wrong, correct it, and try again. Fucking man. Could not agree anymore with that. And then she continued saying, I thought this was really interesting, actually. I actually enjoy failing sometimes. It is a great way to learn about yourself and opens the doors to other avenues that might not have been visible if you had succeeded. Of course, she would much rather have succeeded, but I thought that was really interesting. And actually, yeah, sometimes that failure does help you to innovate. Meg Jolly said, great podcast. My attitude on failure has shifted a lot over the years, from a very black and white pass-fail view on achievements, which has been incredibly damaging fuel for an acutely self-critical, overachieving perfectionist. It's no longer success or failure. It's success or learning experience. Love it. She continues to say, for me, the only failure now is quitting. And that was sort of my angle on it. Edwin said, I've worked hard to be a member of the Thick Skin Club when it comes to receiving critiques of my work, and then moving forward when the clarion call of I can't do this anymore is sounding the loudest. I'm naturally an overly careful person, and fear of failure has kept me from doing many things over the years. The irony of giving into that fear is the number of times I dared to act, and even the failures were nowhere near as climactic as my imagination expected. I've now reached the point where my default answer is no longer no, and I'm prepared to give an opportunity a fair chance. I love that.
Love it.
And I think what I said to Edwin is that I'm the opposite. So my default response is yes.
Yes.
Because I'm like, oh, what trouble can this get me into? Want to go play in a broken down building? Yeah, fucking right I do. Anything. I will say yes to everything. And like sometimes that gets me in trouble, and sometimes it's super fun, and then sometimes I get really, really fucking overwhelmed. Way too much work. Yeah. So yeah, I'm trying to come much more into the middle of saying no sometimes. To balance so I really loved his response.
Yeah, one thing we didn't acknowledge that I do think is a massive contributor is, and yeah, I'm not just gonna go down like a whole soapbox about this, but like just the education system, and basically how like your entire formative years are based on pass fail essentially. I mean, obviously, like I'm years out, so I don't know what they do with it a lot now, but that was sort of my experience.
Do you know they don't give grades now, they give numbers? they give numbers, so you don't get like an A star or an A for your GCSEs anymore. You get, and this is so British because half of this is they have grade point averages in America and they have baccalaureates in other countries, but anyway, yeah, they don't give A B C D E F U whatever it is. They give numbers. It's weird.
Intriguing. And I will also say that in terms of the comments, I'm really sorry that I didn't get to replying to many of them, but for some reason I'm now not getting notifications. So I think what's happening is because there are two admins, it only gives one admin privileges to get the fucking notifications.
You think?
No.
I think you were just shit this week. Yeah.
I think, yeah, no, it genuinely, like, I will try and dive in next week and reply to those, but just know that they are valued, so keep sending those in.
Yeah.
And now over to this week's question.
Oh God.
All right, chill out, Jesus Christ. Which is, to be fair, I think it's a nice simple one, and I'll be interested more so in pre-COVID and post-COVID as opposed to some of the struggles.
Now.
Although feel free to mention some of that. How do you hone your writing craft? I know you've alluded to some of this in previous episodes, but I don't think we've specifically gone down this rabbit hole.
Okay. So, every time there's that pause, isn't there? We should we need to count.
Add a sound effect, like, but
yeah, that moment of thinking, how do I hone my writing craft? Okay, well, I think the biggest thing for me is that I'm extremely intentional about honing my craft. So one of the things that I talked about in the Anatomy of Prose is that there's a myth, Malcolm Gladwell, they talk about the 10,000 hours, but what in his myth, in his words becoming, famous, they missed out a really key part, which is it's not just 10,000 hours of practice, it's 10,000 hours of intentional practice. So I don't think if somebody just writes books and continues to just write books, they're not going to get any better at writing. And I know that's super controversial and some people are going, what? But I'm sorry, if you just continue to write books and you don't study, you don't intentionally try and learn, you don't get any better. So that is my very black and white opinion on that subject. So what I do is I will go through each book when I'm reading, and I will underline everything that comes to me that is either excellent or terrible. And I tend to underline and sticky tab things in sections. So be they dialogue, be they visceral reactions, be they emotional sentences, be they characterization sentences, description, dialogue, whatever. And then at the end of them, I collate them all together, and I put them into groups. So I will group all the dialogue together, and I'll group all the description together, and then I literally go down and I forensically analyze what that person has done. Now, what I used to do was I would then write up those lessons and I would put them on my blog, and I really miss doing that. And based on some of the feedback that I got in my reader survey, I think I'm probably going to go back to doing some of those. I'm not sure how frequently they'll be. I know I've got 2 books on my shelf that I've got thoughts and lessons that I want to write down for, so I feel like it's brewing, and especially if I can then use those as springboards for non-fiction craft books as well. Anyway, I'm waffling. So that's one thing I do. Something else that I do intentionally is I read a lot of craft books. I read craft everything from plotting, outlining, to story structure, to characterization, scene, like how to create scenes. I read books on conflict, on editing, on literally every single facet of craft. I will consume information on and digest it, and when I find something that really hits home, I put it in a file so that I can go and refer to it at a later date. And then the other thing that I do is I go to the cinema a lot, and I watch a lot of films, and I look at story structure there. And I have been known to go, because I have like a cinema card, so I can go all the time and not pay. I just pay like a monthly fee. And so like another one of the lessons that I've got in my notebook is I went to see The Joker twice, and I wrote 11 pages of notes in the cinema, literally in the cinema, whilst I was watching the film.
So you.
I know, right? It's literally so me. Like, people are like, the fuck is she doing? Like, with her fucking notebook and her scratchy pen. I made my pencil go blunt. So thank God well, I couldn't. So it's not the neatest of handwriting. Nobody said it was neat. Anyway, and I'll take notes and then I'll analyze, and I have a folder on my phone as well. So like when I'm watching films or when I'm watching TV series and somebody says something really funny or something that moves me, I will pause it, rewind it, and write down exactly what they've said. So I have a record of like different films, and then like I'll look at it and I'll analyze it. So I am quite forensic about learning and developing my craft.
The anatomy of prose.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's not a huge surprise, but yeah, I think that's probably the most ways. I mean, I really intentionally look for story everywhere. I look for craft everywhere. I listen in adverts. I listen in, like, I am never not thinking about craft and story and prose. And one thing that I would say I could do better is my storage system. I've got shit everywhere. Like, I've got stuff in folders, in notebooks, in books, in you know, notes on my phone. So I need to systematize the collation of it a bit better, which is actually what my blog used to be. But yeah, anyway, oh my God, I talked a lot about that. I'm sorry. How do you do it?
I love it. So one thing, just before it slips out of my head, one thing that I loved that you brought up there was sort of the cross medium. So it's not so much a case of just reading books. You've got the cinema, you've got adverts. I found myself, my son likes to watch YouTube videos, and for some reason YouTube's now basically riddled with adverts. It's absolutely disgusting. But the one popped up the other day. Normally, like when it counts down to 5 seconds, it lets you skip, and I normally skip in. But this advert was like, it caught me straight away. So I was like, I'm going to watch this and try and work out why it was so good. And
I did that the other day,
ironically, I can't remember what one it was now. But yeah,
one got me about being self-employed. That's what got the last one. The last advert that got me was about like owning your own business and being free. It was about freedom. The other thing I was just going to say, sorry, I did forget. Poetry is the other medium. I read a lot of poetry as well.
A lot of narrative in there.
Oh, and song lyrics. I'm sorry, I'll shut up now. Song lyrics as well.
That's fine. Yeah, I think so. The reason I've asked this is something that I can't remember if we've mentioned this on the podcast before, if it's like something we've spoken about privately, but I keep saying a lot that I want to slow down a little bit, because basically my entire role as a writer at the minute is basically just word machining and just getting stuff out. When you ghostwrite for clients, a lot of the time you just get given the bulk of what they want. So you don't really need to do much planning. You just have to kind of get your head around what people want and then write. With my work, because I'm doing a lot of ghostwriting, a lot of my work is just a case of writing fast, because if I don't, I'm not going to get work out with my name on. And I had this week, as I mentioned earlier with the confessional and stuff, one of my goals was to plan this next trilogy, which is, it's a little bit of a slight difference in the ghostwriting that I won't go into, but basically I had an opportunity to actually like plan and sort of get really deep into sort of characters and stuff. And I forgot how much I enjoyed that part of the process, because it stretches a totally different muscle. You really have to think about sort of the jigsaw pieces of where the character is going to fit, what their motivations are, all that kind of good stuff. And it's a piece that I've really been missing, and something that I've not really been doing all that much of myself. Like, I obviously with When Winter Comes, I've did a couple of, well, to be fair, I was percolating for years, but I did a few weeks of, you know, planning and getting all that set up before I went. But it was just a part where I just really liked that. And I'm similar to you. I'll read a lot of books and I'll very deeply go into, like, if I find a line or I find myself really getting swept away with something, I will stop and I will go back a couple of pages, or I'll look at the paragraph and be like, what was it that was so good about this that kept me going?
What do you do with that information?
Nothing. I kind of like just store it in my head, because I think one of my things is I'm very I'm aware that what I'm doing on a level at the minute is working, and I'm a bit scared to go too in depth into stuff, because I've found in the past, if somebody was like critical about a particular part of my writing, rightly so, that when it comes to writing, I'll slow down a lot, because I'll then be very hyper focused on attending to those things that needed fixing, which is obviously a good thing because you're developing in the long run. But as it is at the minute, that slows me down. but yeah, so, and with the submissions that I've been reading a lot lately, obviously there are going to be some amazing ones. Obviously there are going to be some like less so. And what I found really interesting was, as I was reading through those, really getting a sense early on of the importance of the beginning of that story, and why that has such an impact, and how you really need to, particularly in short stories, not maybe less so in novels, but you know, you could argue the opposite. But in a short story, definitely like hooking someone in from the start and giving them an idea of what this story is going to be about, rather than sort of rambling on and then going into something and it being not even within the goddamn theme, as like about 24 of them were. But anyway, so you know, there's that. So I do a lot of reading. When I come around to writing a particular story, I will hunt for particular books that, and I've mentioned this before, but particular books that I kind of want to emulate in a way that give the feel that I'm trying to portray. That's a very key one for me. And while I'm writing that book, I will often just keep churning through these books to keep filling that well. Because if I then started reading, I don't know, some Tolkien or something, that's just going to derail my style. One thing that I used to do that was really, really useful, particularly in the early days of it, to hone my craft and to work out different styles and stuff, and basically where I fit on the writing spectrum, was when we started the Other Stories podcast, and we had our different themes that each of us 4 writers were basically trying to work through. With each theme, I'd give myself something very deliberately different to try and see if I could work through that story, try and emulate a style, try and really sort of succeed, or give it a bit of a bend in my way. And it was through, I kind of, I give a lot of credit to the Other Stories just for helping me find my voice, because with different themes, with different styles, all that kind of stuff, it really helped me to narrow down on who I was as a writer, particularly when it came to sort of translating into longer words. And I think one thing that I plan to do in terms of going forward, because this is something that I used to do a lot and I do less so now, and again, this is something that we've touched on before, is because a lot of the things in my life are very fast paced. Like, I'll listen to podcasts at twice the speed. I'll like make everything in my house ridiculously efficient just to like make sure I'm getting work done. Like, I write fast, all that kind of stuff. I'm a very go person. And I got to a point where I started doing the reading challenges on Goodreads. And every year I'm like, I'm going to read more books. I'm going to read more books than the last. And you try and beat it and you try and beat it. And what that has meant for me is that quite a lot of books I'll read half or 3/4, and then I'll very quickly read through the last bits, rather than really slowing down and taking in what that book's trying to give me, or really sort of allowing myself to process what I'm reading. I'm just, because there are so many books in the world that you're never going to have time to read them all. So I try and read fast. And one thing that I do want to do going forward, because I feel like I'm missing a trick here, is to really take my time to digest you know, whether it's fiction or non-fiction, sort of the lessons that are inside, and really help me with my craft, rather than going, oh shit, I need to finish this in a week, 4 days, so I can get onto the next book. So yeah, a lot in all different directions. One thing that I do also want to start doing is more courses, and looking at specific things that I can really sort of get in depth into, because I did have an experience this week, and they'll know who they are as I'm speaking about this, in which somebody sent me a short story, and I did a bit of like a developmental edit through it, just to kind of help that person. But also because of some stuff I've got upcoming, I kind of just wanted to test my knowledge in a way. And what was really nice was going through that story, and just realizing that a lot of the stuff that had been difficult for me to begin with was now a lot more innate, but not just innate, but now to the point where I could communicate that to someone else and try and put that into practical steps for them to follow. So teaching, I think, is going to be a big component of me working on my craft going forward, because like you say, I don't think you're polarizing it. I completely agree. If you just pump out books, which is something, to be fair, I have been doing, and I will take a sip because my throat is hurting. Yeah, if you're just pumping out books, if you're just writing the same thing, and you're not, you know, listening to your editor, you're not getting feedback from readers, you're not listening to any of that, you're just writing. It is just running on a treadmill and not doing anything different. And it's definitely, I feel like craft is probably the thing I've paid the least attention to this year. which isn't to say that I haven't paid any attention to, but it's probably the thing I paid least attention to. And it's something that I really want to work on, particularly ramping up books and going into 2021. So I think I kind of answered my question.
There were two things I was going to reply about, and I can't remember what the first one is because I'm senile and you kept talking. So, but I'm sure when I listen back, I'll remember and then I'll tell you offline. The second one was about the Goodreads challenge. But first, I have a follow-up question. So, when you were at school, how did you learn best?
By doing.
Okay, because I was like, if you're going to learn craft, or like if you're going to be more intentional about it, I suppose the question is how can you help yourself best to retain that information? Because you said, oh, you keep a lot in your head. I cannot do that. I have to write everything down, which is really annoying time-wise, because it takes so long time-wise, but also that's what helped me start writing craft books in the first place. So also it's really cool. So yeah, that, I suppose that was my question. So the thing about Goodreads, next year I'm exactly the same, and I'm really fucked off this year that I'm not going to beat last year's book count, and I'm not, because it's just I'm too far out this year to do that. So next year, I don't know whether I'm doing it in spite or what, but
throwing your toys out the pram.
Yeah, well, I don't know if I'm actually going to track it on Goodreads. I don't know if I can actually disentangle myself, so I may still have to do it on Goodreads. But just because I'm weak and I need it to tick goals and see gold stars, but what I'm going to do is set myself the goal of reading 12 thick books. So 12 books that are more than 450 pages.
So that's the other thing. Yeah, it doesn't take into account, like, you could read a novella or a comic book and it still counts.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm going to set my goal for 12 books next year. Obviously, I'm going to read more than 12 books because I'm an author and I read fuckloads of books. But yeah, my goal, and I'm going to, because I've got some, like, I don't know if you can you see this sort of yellowy book here? It's like 800 pages long. I really want to read it, but it's like that's like 2.5 books in one book. So and I can't allow myself to read them unless I know I'm still going to achieve my goal.
I know, I totally get it. I totally get what you mean.
Oh.
Anytime, because whenever it comes around to, I used to be heavily involved in Hawk and Cleaver's reading club that they do every month, and every time they put in the vote down, I was always like, in my head going, this one's 200 pages, so I hope this one wins, and then the 400 pager will win, and I'll be like, fuck no. I have to read this now. But yeah, I think I don't know, I think, like I say, most of this has come from just really, really enjoying all this planning stuff today, and forgetting that was a key part of just the creative process and getting into it, because it's been a while since I've really sort of had like a proper think session. So yeah, I guess the question we're going to ask everyone is how do you hone your writing craft? And Sacha Black, how are you leveling up your author business this week?
Okay, so I am going to finish the slide decks for the course, and what I need to do is film, but I need to be careful about what I put down because I don't know where my son's going to be, and I can't realistically film either while he's awake or whilst he's making a lot of noise. So I'm going to say that I'm going to make progress on the course, because if I can't film, then I could be doing my marketing resources, my resource downloads, I could be doing lots of other things. So number one is make progress on the course. Number two is read a lot of fucking books. So I don't know how much I'm allowed to say, but I am a judge for a really prestigious writing competition, and I have like 1,600 pages to read in like the next 20 days. So I need to spend a lot of next week reading. So yeah, the course, reading, and I am going to say this, I'm going to say that I have to have done at least one edit, just because I need to get that in progress. And even if I say one post-it, that's something to have got. I need to take my brain into editing mode because I've been in drafting mode for a really long time.
That's a big week.
It is a big week. Well, yeah. I mean,
Mhm.
they're mostly vague. Read, do the course, and one edit. So yeah,
Okay.
I need to write that down.
I am gonna have When Winter Comes 5 into the hands of beta readers after doing a full edit myself. I am going to have my finalists for the other side anthology selected, contacted, probably paid and sorted as well. And one thing that I'm definitely doing this anthology, I've already sort of made steps to do this, is even if people aren't accepted, I'm contacting them directly and letting them know, because I'm sick of, whether it's job interviews, whether it's submissions, like basically the norm being, yeah, if you don't hear from us, you're not in. I hate that. I feel like it's so dismissive and rude for people that actually put in time to send things in. And that's not how I'm going to run my goddamn business. And what else have I got going on? Client work. I've got to do. Well, I'll say it this way: I have to be in line with my production schedule, because it's kind of all set out in that. And I'm doing a bit of. I'm going to be an indie author on the road next week. I'm going to go travel, see some friends, while also managing my writing, which is going to be an experience, and I hope that it's as fun and carefree as it feels like it should be in my head.
I didn't know that. Where are you going?
I'm off down to Essex for a couple of days, and then I'm off to Guildford, and then off to Cambridgeshire, and then potentially I was going to contact you guys and see if I'll swing by y'all on the way back to Lincoln. So
yeah, definitely
heading up and away from pretty much
buddy date.
Yeah. Pretty much away from Sunday evening until Wednesday or Thursday. So fun.
Amazing.
Why not? I've got a car now. Screw it. Let's get on the road and then do some work and be that guy.
Hell yeah.
I think that's plenty of stuff. So that
is loads of stuff.
Yeah. Thank you everyone for joining us. Answer the question in the comments everywhere, and we will see you next week.
Bye-bye. Bye. Oh, you're still recording.
Yeah.
Hungry for more?
If you enjoyed this podcast, you can hear more of my angelic accent and Dan's dulcet tones on our other podcasts.
For more of me, check out the Great Writers Share podcast.
For more of me, listen to the Rebel Author podcast. We'll be back next week holding each other to account as Dan
and Sacha
become
next level
authors.
Well, I like just looking at you, otherwise I'm just going to look at myself.
It also gives you a bit of a break. Like if someone's speaking, you could just be a bit like, this is the Easter egg.